on. And like it's crazy because all the head coaches that have been hired have been whites. Whites.
Coach is so white.
White. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a whole lot of white. That's a lot of mayonnaise to deal with. But yeah, all of them have been white.
Matt LaFleur.
Matt LaFleur's the Packers head coach.
Which
Aaron Rodgers got a call from him. So
which is stupid because LaFleur has only been an offensive play caller one season. He's for the Titans,
and yeah, they were maligned, but it's not
maligned,
like
and they barely made the playoffs. And Mariota didn't get any better, and
Corey Davis
almost
didn't go over
died.
1,000 yards. I don't think he did. He should have, but he didn't. Derrick Henry, they finally decided to give him the ball. But guess what? Aaron Jones is probably rushing for 1,000 yards.
But
Aaron Rodgers
what LaFleur did do was he coached 1 year as an offensive coordinator, yes man, in the booth for your Los Angeles Rams.
I feel like he played quarterback at Louisville.
I think he did too.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I can almost tell all these QBs.
Was he? He might have been with the Packers. Actually, no, I think about it.
He probably played for them, but I know Matt LaFleur definitely, almost definitely, I'm certain, played at Louisville. A lot of these, I'm surprised Chris Redmond doesn't have a job somewhere. He probably does. But a lot of these old ass Louisville QBs somehow are getting jobs. Where's Brian Brom? That's what I want to know. He'll probably be next. But it's like all these cats who come from college. And here's the thing: what people don't realize is high school has these unique offenses that exploits the athleticism of players to their maximum potential. That's why you see cats rush for like 6,000 yards in a season or whatever. Or you see like QBs throw for gaudy numbers in a season, like 100 touchdowns in the season, 7,000 yards. Like all 5 of their receivers go over 1,000 yards. Some of them aren't even good. It's just because it's a high volume thing. Those coaches are getting maybe a couple shots in college, but mostly what the NFL does and what college does is rather than give some of those coaches who are great minds usually, they steal those concepts and then incorporate them into college and pro schemes. And that's what you're seeing. They're taking all from really the high school levels in terms of just simple, basic passing offense, passing coordinations, and they're saying, okay, we're going to spread the ball out, and then they're going to pretend like they didn't like it, the same way they pretended like they didn't like the Wildcat, but yet they praised Tim Debo and sucked his nuts every 5 seconds. Like, the NFL is like, okay, we're going to fully just go all in on the college spread scheme, which is damn near perfected in high school with all the production, and then pretty much said, okay, how can we make this concept, which is kind of gimmicky, on a notebook filled with just routes and combinations. How can we actually make that sense in the pro level and translate? That's why for a long time, like let's say a school like Baylor, they had receivers put up gaudy numbers, but they couldn't actually run a full route tree. But you can get away with that in college. Whoa, you just turned me off. Was that a laugh?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. By the way, Matt Rule didn't accept a head coaching job with the Jets because they wouldn't let him pick his own assistant, so he stayed at Baylor. And it should be good. He should stay at Baylor because he's turning around the culture there, and it's not as toxic as it used to be, even though it's still pretty toxic. And a bunch of athletes got thrown under the bus when the nasty-ass administrators walked away scot-free. But we're going to talk about abuse later in the show, or maybe we won't. I don't know. But when
we also got to talk about Fangio going to the Broncos, defensive coach on a defensive team
that's more
that desperately needs a quarterback and hasn't had a quarterback, and they're probably going to reach for one this year when they should have took one last year. And guess what? It's probably going to be a colossal bust the size of Paxton Lynch once again.
Nah, I'm taking Bradley Chubb. Had they taken Lamar Jackson, that would have been crazy.
No, but what I'm saying is I'm not knocking the Bradley Chubb pick so much as I'm saying like they're in the same scenario again, and it's like they don't really have a plan, and now they're going with the defensive coach again after they already went with the defensive coach and it didn't work.
But here's the thing.
they're pretty much going against the trend that you're talking about in terms of getting a QB handler to be the overseer of your franchise.
Here's what they're doing. They're placating to. That's why I like, and we'll get into the racial elements of this in a minute, but they're placating defensive coaches like Greg Williams didn't get the job in Cleveland. Freddie Kitchens got the job. Mostly because he's comfortable with Baker Mayfield.
I mean, that's why he got. There's also his whole
no. I'm not
backstory.
I'm not shooting Greg Williams any bail, but he might end up the defensive coordinator in Arizona. Why? Young coordinator. They need to restructure a really good defense.
So pretty much the Sean McVay formula.
No, they're placating to defensive coaches. We're like, we really don't want to give you the job. You're only the head coach, and that you're a defensive coordinator, so you can actually get people on the right page, and you'll just have an offensive coordinator, and you'll leave it alone in his hands. You don't really meddle in our offense, but we want you to give us a great defense. But we really don't want you as a head coach. They treat defensive coaches as placeholders, and I think that's really crappy.
I think that's part of it for sure, but I also
Wilkes was a defensive guy.
I also think you got to think about it like on a really low scale level and just kind of like the basic concept of offense and defense. It's like the offensive coordinators are like really flashy dudes who are like charismatic and like can sell anyone on anything, and they're rah-rah, and versus the defensive coaches are the dudes who paid their dues. They're X's and O's minds. They'll talk about football for hours and experiences and stuff like that, but they're not necessarily going to jump out in a press conference or in an interview. And, of course, there's some racial undertones to why both of those biases exist. But it's also just kind of the nature of both offense and defense. What?
No. I was just trying to make sure the sound was good. But anyway, when it comes down to what you said, and defensively, it's really like, I think of Rex Ryan. I think of a guy like Rex Ryan because he failed. That kills it for a lot of defensive coaches. And I think about Steve Wilkes, Todd Bowles. I think of situations where there wasn't a quarter.
Joseph.
Huh?
Vance Joseph.
Yeah. Those cats, and again, we'll get to the racial aspects of that later, but those cats, and this is where the league and players, safety and defense is getting penalized for everything comes into play. The league is showing you, and the officiating is showing you, that it's geared towards the offense. So why would you get a defensive-minded head coach? Yeah, he can stop your offense, but if your offense is just going to stall out, you just have your Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's a cautionary tale. It's like Doug Peterson. Look what he's doing with Nick Foles. Doug Peterson was a lifetime backup QB. Under the Andy Reid tree, Eric Bieniemy, who again should get head coaching consideration. I think he would have been perfect for the Packers, to be honest. But you want to just jump right into the racial aspects of it, because we pretty much covered like the baseline for why
you can the league is go for it.
Cool, because the league has already shifted into saying we want more offense, even at the detriment of good defense. Shout out to the Panthers not re-signing Thomas Davis. Moment of silence. All right. So, the racial aspects of that, like 70% of the league is black, right? But like less than, I think like 26% of the coaches and like front office people are black or just non-white. There's no owners, no black owners, obviously. There's a couple black coordinators around the league, a handful. Mostly black coaches have to go be defensive coordinators. Hence, and shout out to your joke earlier in the show about me looking like a black defensive line coach. Because I do. Limp and everything. Damn. I'm gonna have to become a high school football coach, aren't I? Aren't I? God damn it! By the way, shout out to Coach Travis Clark.
You could even be that. You could even be that defensive line coach, that running back coach who was actually a defensive line coach
and tight end coach,
but is helping out the running backs and tight ends.
And offensive line coach.
Yeah,
but like.
Nah, not offensive line. You look like
a
running back and tight end. Yeah.
Even though I was an offensive lineman and defensive lineman, and I played. Never mind. But anyway, I
just see you standing by the ladders, going knees up, knees up, knees up.
Having the little flippers, the red flippers.
Yeah. I could see you doing that.
It's like, okay, we're not gonna hit, but put on the red flippers. All right, now don't hit the babies, the freshmen and sophomores. Don't go too hard. Just hit him with a little flipper. That one asshole in practice has to clothesline a kid and break his arm. By the way, we actually had to do that. He hit a guy, he fell, and broke his arm on the track. Never plays football again. But anyway, when it comes to black coaches, they usually have to end up doing something like what you said. They may get a wide receiver coach, a running back coach, but never a QB coach. Maybe an offensive line coach, but that's rare. That's actually, that rarely happens. They'll just put you on defensive line or special teams. Maybe. You can coach the DBs all day. You can coach the linebackers all day. You can be a quality control coach, all that. You can be a coaching intern.
To bring it back, I think
but they won't make you an offensive line coach.
To bring it back, I think the thing that you're getting to, the thing that you're saying is like...
They don't let you near the valuable positions.
Besides all that, but like, how can you get promoted when the people promoting you aren't from the places you're from? They're experience the same.
In hiring you.
They don't have the same culture as you. Like you're not going to share the same kind of small talk. Like there's a reason why they're not selling you, and you're not being chum and like.
It's not even that.
Like it is though, because that's across all industries. That's why diversity is an issue across the board.
Okay, first off, like I've said before, diversity is a box of sharpened crayons. And all the crayons that are colored are dull as hell, but the white crayon is mad sharp. That's a diversity issue. Actually, no, I have it backwards. A box of crayons is diverse, but a box of crayons where all the crayons except one crayon are all dull and that one crayon is mad sharp, that's an equity issue. That's treating everybody equitably and fairly. And everybody says the fair is where pigs are judged.
I was going to say.
And Stephen A. Smith said that, but it's like there's a right way to treat people and a wrong way to treat people. And Herm Edwards is one of the few guys, even though he was an overrated head coach, he was one of the last dudes in that era, him, Lovie Smith, who actually were considered, again, for head coaching jobs. Herm Edwards was obviously good with the media, so that helps. Lovie Smith was a great defensive mind. I mean, he got stuck with Rex Grossman as his quarterback. That's unfortunate. I look to the college level again. Yeah, Dino Babers had they won 10 games or 11 games in Syracuse for the first time in years. Set a bunch of records. Turned that program around. Syracuse used to be a laughingstock. Remember when Doug Marrone was their head coach and then he left them to be, the Jaguars head coach? Remember how that turned out?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how Doug Marrone just mediocred his way into a job. Oh wait, because he's white. Because in no other realm of sanity, if I just took the aspect of, okay, this person's connected to this person because of coaching tree, like you said, connections, relationships, familiarity. When you break that down and say, okay, is this dude right for the job? Okay, Rooney Rule, we'll throw you an interview because you have to interview somebody non-white.
Well, I think the other thing, too, is like, okay, like we're talking about how these coaches are being hired to be babysitters and handlers and essentially save QBs. But it's also like, that's also the root of the issue, too, because like the QBs are white. So it's like,
and most of them are trash.
Who are they going to hit it off with? This other white dude who reminds them of their older cousin? Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like it's simple. It's really simple. Like, we try to make it really complicated, but it's really simple. Humans are really simple beings, and football is a reflector
a microcosm
of,
of what. Yeah,
exactly.
Before. So